Hi guys, hope you're doing well and welcome to this video about verbs. In this video, we're gonna see how many categories of verbs exist in French. So to start, you should know that in French, verbs are split into three groups. There are verbs of the first group, or what we call in French, verbes du premier groupe. I will repeat it once again. Verbes du premier groupe. And we have also verbs of the second group, and in French we say verbes du deuxième groupe. Once again, verbes du deuxième groupe. And then we have verbs of the third group. And in French, we say verbes du troisième groupe. Verbes du troisième groupe. So let's see some examples of each one of them, and we're gonna start with verbs of the first group, or verbes du premier groupe. So for the verbs of the first group, we have manger. Manger, which means to eat. Danser. Danser, which means to dance. Aimer. Aimer, which means to love. Oublier. Oublier, which means to forget. Appeler. Appeler, which means to call. So, what do you notice, guys? You notice that all the verbs of the first group end up with ER. Okay? Remember that. Whenever you see a verb that ends up with ER, there is a big chance that it belongs to the first group, except for some verbs that we're gonna see later. Okay? So next, we have verbs of the second group, or what we call in French, verbes du deuxième groupe. So here are some examples. Finir. Finir, which means to finish. Grandir. Grandir, which means to grow. Choisir. Choisir, which means to choose. Atterrir. Atterrir, which means to land. Subir. Subir, which means to undergo. So as you have probably noticed, for the verbs of the second group, they always end up with IR. Okay? And finally, we have verbs of the third group, or verbes du troisième groupe. And this is where things get a little bit harder, because these verbs that belong to this group are not regular verbs. They are irregular. While for the two previous groups, the first group and the second group, they are regular verbs. Alright? So let's see here some examples of verbs of the third group. Aller. Aller, which means to go. Dormir. Dormir, which means to sleep. Entendre. entendre, which means to hear. Boire, boire, which means to drink. Comprendre, comprendre, which means to understand. So as you see here, the verbs of the third group end up with RE most of the time. However, there are some exceptions, like for example for the verb aller, which ends up with ER but belongs to the verbs of the third group, and dormir, which ends up with IR but belongs to the verbs of the third group as well. So, to summarize, verbs in French are split into three groups. First group, which take ER at the end. Second group, which take IR at the end. And third group, which take RE at the end, except, of course, some exceptions that can end up with ER or IR. So, that is all for this video about verbs and their groups. Hope it was useful. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me in the comments and I'm gonna answer. If you like the video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any video, and see you next time.